Waking up from cult indoctrination isn't a quick or easy process. It takes time, research, planning, and a lot of emotional labor before you can make a change for the better. But, as any Star Wars rebel will tell you, any rebellion starts with a spark. So, today we'll be visiting Reddit to discover what first doubts my fellow ex-Jehovah's Witnesses had about the religion. We would be honored if you would join us. As always, credit to the original poster on the thread for organizing the idea. Zealous Ideal Heat put together a good prompt by asking two simple questions. What was the first doubt you ever had? And how long did you stay? Here are just a few highlights from the conversation. Our first comment comes from someone with a very similar childhood to mine, especially surrounding reading material.
As a child, reading my book of Bible stories and looking at the pictures of the Great Flood, with people clinging on to rocks in the flood. The agony on their faces felt wrong to me and made me wonder how it could be fair or right to do that to anyone, but especially little kids.
Jehovah's Witness children are typically indoctrinated from birth. While the religion insists that all of its materials is meant for everyone, it takes special care in creating content for children. Caleb and Sophia cartoons in the modern day, Listen to the Great Teacher in the 70s, and most infamous, My Book of Bible Stories. I've read a few of these on the channel in the past and have a link to them in the upper corner of the screen, but the story of Noah is especially concerning. Given that children often have little to no input on their religious beliefs and need to depend on their parents for a majority of their childhood, it seems especially cruel to many of us who also had no influence on our high control upbringing. Jehovah's Witnesses usually attempt to soften the blow of these large, violent acts of God with their signature resurrection hope, in that, after God's Day of Reckoning, called Armageddon by Jehovah's Witnesses, Jehovah God himself, along with his son, Jesus, will resurrect both the righteous and the unrighteous, meaning that everyone gets a second chance, except for certain people, like the children drowned in the flood. Don't believe me? The March 15th, 1965 Watchtower article titled Who Will Be Resurrected and Why clearly states in paragraph 4 that all the people, especially the children and babies, are destroyed forever. So yes, if it disturbs you that Jehovah your God murders literal babies who have no influence over their environment, simply based on where God allowed them to be born, then this may be a very good first doubt for you to start with. Since we're on the subject of death and resurrection, let's go to paradise and see what our next poster has to say.
As a child, it was difficult for me to understand the appeal of paradise. The pictures of it did not look fun, and I hated the fact that once you reached paradise, there would be the 1,000-year reign, where you could get kicked out if you screwed up. It did not seem merciful or loving.
The Jehovah's Witnesses' primary doctrine is that, by serving Jehovah, their interpretation of the Abrahamic God of the Bible, they will be granted an everlasting life in paradise. This is a reformatted earth made to be a tropical oasis in every corner. Jehovah's Witnesses also claim that people will live forever on this earth in what they call perfect bodies that won't age or weaken. In fact, according to the rarely used publication, Spirits of the Dead, Can They Help You or Harm You? Do They Really Exist? In the section called The Paradise Earth, Jehovah's Witnesses open by saying all bad things that happen to people on Earth just won't happen anymore in this paradise. But in any depiction of paradise, and there are many, most of this supposed paradise involves reading, eating fruit, and playing with animals. All fine ways to spend time, don't get me wrong, I love a beautiful garden. But I also like playing a good game of Battlefront 2, when I'm not being accosted by cheetahs, that is. And frankly, if you have any other interests, it doesn't seem like they'll be here. And even if they are, the concept of infinity is boggling to a human mind. After all, how many fruits and vegetables can you grill over the course of 5 or 6 billion years? It's a big question mark when you really get down to the logistics. On the subject of rewards and payments, our next doubt comes from a change in Watchtower policy that allows for Jehovah's Witnesses to support their donations with debt.
This is such a nothing burger. But mine was reading a Watching the World blurb in The Awake, making fun of a church for taking credit card donations. Then, like 2 years later, Watchtower started taking credit card donations.
I do have to disagree. Noticing hypocrisy is not a nothing burger. Historically, Jehovah's Witnesses have seen religion as something of a snare and a racket. In fact, they refer to all non-Jehovah's Witness religious practices as false religion. The Watchtower study program Enjoy Life Forever, in the lesson titled How False Religion Misrepresents God, reviews the different ways that other churches misrepresent what they believe God to be, going so far as to say that God, apparently, wants to free people from false religion and their practices. So, given their hatred for alleged false religions, it makes you wonder why Jehovah's Witnesses would want to duplicate these practices. Why criticize something, then adopt it when it suits your needs, especially if the God that guides you is supposedly unchanging? Well, they won't say it outright, but I suspect that Jehovah's Witnesses are hurting for donations. The Watchtower has a contentious history of begging for money, especially in the JW.org era, or even encouraging children to donate their ice cream money. This is ironic given that the founder of the religion, Charles Taze Russell, famously said that, "When he who says, 'All the gold and silver of the mountains are mine,' fails to provide necessary funds, we will understand it to be the time to suspend the publication." I can only imagine what he'd say after seeing Caleb and Sophia try to empty their piggy banks at the request of their parents. Our next comment is a common question amongst all religious people, and unfortunately, this parental response is very familiar to me.
As a child, I vividly remember having this thought. What if this isn't the truth? How do we know it's the truth? What if it's just another religion, and we think it's the truth? I asked my parents. There was lots of yelling and crying, learnt to never question it again. Stayed until I was 33 years old.
33 years is a long time to stay silent, but sadly this is common in Jehovah's Witnesses, mostly because they're certain that they themselves are the absolute truth. How do they figure they are? It's complicated, but Jehovah's Witnesses seem to think that they uniquely uphold tenets of what they call pure worship. They list several reasons in the article, "How Can I Find the True Religion on JW.org?" One example being that their religion is Bible-based, which isn't actually unique, as many other religions claim the same feat. Another is that they use the name Jehovah to refer to God, even though this is something the Latter-day Saints and King James-only Christians also do. In fact, most of the so-called unique qualities that Jehovah's Witnesses list are easily replicated in many other religions. Fact of the matter is, Jehovah's Witnesses aren't as unique a religion as they claim to be, though according to JW.org and their other article, "Why are there so many Christian denominations? Any similarity to other religions is a result of corrupted truth," which, coincidentally, most religions will claim the same thing when compared to other religions. A Baptist will tell you that they're unique for not baptizing babies, and may be shocked to hear that Jehovah's Witnesses hold the same belief. And vice versa when you tell the Jehovah's Witnesses about Seventh-day Adventists going door to door, when the witness believed all his life that he was the only one doing so. Needless to say, having this type of doubt is perfectly reasonable. Since we're talking about what makes Jehovah's Witnesses the truth, we should expect some overlap with doubts.
The overlapping generation, that's impossible. Also the 607 and 587 question, the GB is lying.
Oh wow, there are two really complicated ones here. Okay, let me see if I can explain these quickly. I could do a video on the shaky Bible math that the Jehovah's Witnesses do, but here's a super abridged version. In fact, I'll tell you what, if I end up with 1,000 likes and comments combined on this video, I'll do a guide to Jehovah's Witness Bible math. The short of it is, Jehovah's Witnesses have a bad habit of predicting the future, or at least trying to. There are pages and pages on failed Jehovah's Witness prophecy online, so I won't bore you with too many. Two of the most prominent ones are the generation who will never die and the 1914 teaching. The 1914 teaching is easiest. Based on the idea that Jerusalem fell in 607 BC, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that there was a modern fulfillment of the prophecy in the Bible book of Daniel around chapter 4. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that prophecies can have two fulfillments, an ancient one as an example, and a modern one for us to expect in our time. Daniel's prophecy is one of them. They used this one to establish that God's kingdom was founded invisibly in 1914, denoting that we're in a time of the end. It's a lot more dense than that, and the JW.org article titled, "What Does Bible Chronology Indicate About the Year 1914?" goes a bit more in-depth. Though what it won't tell you is that this is a redirection from the original expectation that 1914 would be the end of the world as we know it. But that's another story for another day. If you want to do some independent research, you can check out Studies in the Scriptures, Volume 2 on pages 98 and 99 as written by Charles Taze Russell, the founder of Jehovah's Witnesses himself. The other one is the overlapping generation. So again, this is a really long story. I'm just abridging it for the sake of keeping this video concise. Jehovah's Witnesses also had a prediction that the world would end before the generation of Jehovah's Witnesses that were around for 1914 died, and that these people would get a chance to never die and would live forever in their paradise Earth. In fact, the May 15, 1984 Watchtower published an article titled "The Generation That Will Not Pass Away," reaffirming that they genuinely believed that the babies of that generation would survive the end of the world, and that it would be coming very soon, since said babies were in their 70s at that point. Bear in mind, that was 40 years ago. Seeing this becoming an issue, the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses amended that prediction, meaning that the generation who knew the generation of 1914 would count towards the generation not passing away. At least according to the April 15, 2010 Watchtower, about midway through paragraph 14. Governing body member David Splain reaffirmed this in the September 2015 JW broadcasting live on jw.org, complete with a whiteboard. Again, both of these teachings are very convoluted and incredibly confusing, especially since their theology relies on an otherwise debunked fact, given that we have archaeological evidence that Jerusalem existed well into 587 BCE or so, meaning that it would be impossible for 1914 to be the sign. It's such a clear and apparent fact that even the Watchtower themselves have acknowledged the disagreement. That said, they still cling to the date as the center of their theology, and seeing that is more than a reasonable doubt, in my opinion. Let's get away from the deep scripture and look into a more realistic reason to doubt Jehovah's Witness teachings, because there are plenty.
That women are less than men, that we are nothing but servants for them. Nope.
Now, this tends to pop up a lot in Abrahamic religions, especially Christianity and Islam, but I know Jehovah's Witness theology best, so that'll be our focus today. Jehovah's Witnesses believe in a concept called the headship arrangement. In theory, it's how they run the theocratic organization and how they have their ranking system worked out. The official ranking is as follows: Jehovah at the top, followed by Jesus, then it disseminates down to spiritual leaders of Jehovah's Witnesses, mostly the governing body, who are the JW equivalent to archbishops and a pope. Yes, I do mean and a pope, not or. Again, long story. Below them would be circuit overseers, who would equate to Catholic bishops. And then you have JW elders, basically JW priests. Then ministerial servants, who are like deacons or Jedi Knights if you're feeling spicy. And finally, you have your run-of-the-mill publishers. The only issue is, there are no women involved in the operation of the organization, despite the religion being largely female. The witnesses do this based on their reading of 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 3. Quote, "The head of every man is the Christ. In turn, the head of a woman is the man. In turn, the head of the Christ is God." Meaning that there are no women in leadership positions in the religion, and that fathers or husbands make the final decisions in their family, at least as told by the headship section of Insight on the Scriptures published by, you guessed it, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, the corporation that runs Jehovah's Witnesses, with women being told to subjugate themselves or be subservient to men, lest they anger God, and an angry God usually threatens destruction in this religion. Having to live like a lesser being and not being measured on your own merit, I think, needless to say, is more than enough to doubt the validity of your religion. Okay, we have time for one more. Since we started with the doubt I could relate with, we'll end with one too.
I could not understand why gay people did not deserve love. I always wanted them and all people to be happy. Why could God not? Why don't they deserve normal relationships?
I've said this in my personal story about escaping Jehovah's Witnesses, but there's an inherent degree of homophobia in the religion, even in their publications, like the 1997 Awake magazine from December 8th. There, any act of homosexuality is described as repulsive to their God Jehovah, and given Jehovah's Witness propensity for wanting to be imitators of God, not men, as recommended in the 10th chapter of the Draw Close to Jehovah book, it's clear that they would also find them repulsive on principle. And while they tend to claim that they don't have any actual homophobia, their actions state otherwise.
I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and we believe the Bible teaches sex is for a man and a woman who are married.
Intolerant people.
Given how much louder actions speak than their contradictory words, it's no wonder that young Jehovah's Witnesses, like our commenter, myself, and thousands of others here on the Apostate-class Star Destroyer, doubt the accuracy of Watchtower claims. But those are just a few posts and my opinions on them. What do you think? I'd love to read your own doubts and thoughts in the comments down below. And until then, remember agents, the elders may be watching you, but Darth Magog is watching the Watchtower.